never expected my career to come down to one decision, one impulsive moment I couldn't take back. It started on an evening when the office felt like a ghost town. The faint hum of fluorescent lights buzzed above me, the air conditioner pumping, stale air through the empty cubicles. I should have been long gone, but my manager, Marcus, had asked me to stay late to finish a last-minute report. "I owe you for this, Claire," he'd said with that easy smile of his. "You're saving my life." Marcus always knew how to charm people. He was the kind of boss who remembered everyone's birthday, always had a joke at the ready, and never seemed ruffled no matter how chaotic things got. It was part of why people adored him. It was also part of why I, a woman who prided herself on being professional and composed, had spent far too much time thinking about him in ways I shouldn't. I was just closing my laptop when I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate, too close, to my desk. "Still here?" Marcus's voice cut through the silence. He was leaning against the doorframe, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, eyes heavy with exhaustion, and something else I couldn't quite place. "Yeah, just finishing up," I said, pretending to busy myself with my notes. My heart was hammering in my chest, and I hated how obvious it felt. "You really didn't have to stay this late." He stepped inside, his presence too close now, and I could smell his cologne, woodsy and warm. I would have figured it out. "I know," I said, forcing a smile. "But you asked, so you're just that dependable." His smile shifted, turning softer, almost admiring. There was a silence between us that stretched a little too long. He wasn't leaving, and I wasn't telling him to go. "I shouldn't be here," he said suddenly, a low chuckle in his throat. "I told myself I'd leave hours ago. So why didn't you?" The words were out before I could stop them. My fingers tightened around my pen. Marcus's gaze lingered on me, then drifted down to my desk, where my phone lay face up. "You keep your ringer off?" he asked, changing the subject. "I get too many alerts. Easier to focus this way." "Smart." He hesitated again. "You know, you're good at this. The job, I mean. I don't say that enough." His voice dipped lower, softer. Something about the way he said it felt personal, like he'd been holding that thought for a while. "Thanks," I said carefully. He smiled again, a slow curve of his lips that made my stomach twist. "I should go," he muttered. But he didn't move. His fingers tapped against the doorframe, almost like he was testing himself, like if he let go, he might do something reckless. "Yeah," I whispered, still frozen in my seat. "Me too." Neither of us moved. I heard the sound of footsteps again. Not Marcus's this time, but someone else, closer than I expected. "You should really be careful," a voice murmured from the shadows. My head whipped around to see Emily, one of my coworkers, standing just outside the break room. She had that knowing smirk on her face, the kind that promised trouble. People might get the wrong idea. She disappeared down the hall before I could respond, leaving me sitting there, pulse racing. Marcus, still watching me from the door. "See you tomorrow," he said quietly before turning away. I sat there for a long time after he left, still feeling the warmth of his gaze on me, and wondering just how wrong an idea it might actually be. The next morning, I walked into the office, earlier than usual, hoping to avoid awkward conversations with Emily or curious glances from anyone else. But to my surprise, Marcus was already there, pacing in his office with his phone to his ear. He caught my eye through the glass wall and waved me in. "Can you close the door?" he asked once I stepped inside. His tone was tight, almost strained. "Is everything okay?" I asked, setting my bag down. "Yeah, just..." He sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. "Listen, about last night." My pulse quickened. "Yeah?" Emily. She's tricky. I've seen her spin rumors out of nothing before. He looked directly at me, his expression serious. I just don't want her stirring up anything that could hurt you. Me? I laughed awkwardly. I'm fine. I mean it, he said, stepping closer. If she tries anything, let me know. I'll handle it. His protectiveness caught me off guard. Thanks, I murmured. And for a moment I felt the air shift again. That same unspoken tension creeping in like a slow burn. Later that afternoon, I returned to my desk to find a small envelope resting on my keyboard. Inside was a note written in sharp, slanted handwriting. Watch your back. I didn't have to guess who it was from. My heart thudded painfully in my chest as I looked up to see Emily leaning against the far wall, smiling just enough to make my skin crawl. This was going to get ugly. The next few days were tense. Emily's presence seemed to follow me, watching from across the room, whispering to coworkers when I passed by. I tried to ignore it until I heard Marcus had been called into a closed-door meeting with HR. That evening, Marcus called me. Can you meet me? Outside the building. When I arrived, he looked exhausted. Emily told them I was harassing you, he said bitterly. I denied it, but they want to talk to you too. I felt cold all over. What do we do? You tell the truth. His hand brushed mine. I'll take the fall if I have to. No, I said firmly. We're not letting her win. The next morning, I walked into HR, determined. Emily was already there, spinning her lies. But when it was my turn, I calmly explained everything. How she'd been manipulating the situation, how Marcus had actually been protecting me. By the end of the meeting, Emily's face was pale, and Marcus walked away with his job intact. I owe you for this, Marcus said later, his voice low. Let me take you to dinner. I smiled, the tension finally breaking. Only if you promise we won't talk about work. Deal, he said. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like things were finally back under control. Thank you for listening to my confession. If you want more untold stories like this, you know what to do. And tell me, what would you have done in my shoes?